Hello guys, welcome back to another video. Today we will be building a mill in The Sims, and this build consists in two parts, I would say, which is the main building, which will be the house, and then we have the tower for the actual mill, so the round bit you see there at the right. For this build, I did have a reference image. Or better, I was heavily inspired by some digital art that I saw online, and I will link it in the description. When I saw this painting, I immediately thought about how cool it would look in The Sims. And for this build, there were many challenges. First of all, I decided to play with terrain manipulation, or with the terrain tool, as you will see in a minute. And it can be tricky to work with. For example, when you change the terrain, the placement of some objects that you already put down go crazy, and sometimes you have to rearrange everything. And yeah, if you add lakes and the water tool to that mix, you get yourself like a million-piece jigsaw puzzle. But just kidding. It takes a while to shape the terrain to how you want it to look, but I think it is rewarding in the end. And we end up having a sort of lake/river in this build, which goes through the middle of the build. This arch that I just put there in the middle is where the river flows through. And the river is actually another one of the challenges I had for this build. And I struggled to make the quote-unquote tunnel, or I tried hard to make it look like a tunnel. And I spent a while working on it, but in the end I found a debug piece, or a debug item, that was perfect for what I wanted. So again, the debug catalog coming in with the clutch, that was really good, because what I did before, or what I did first, was to take the arch and then replicate it many times. But it looked a little bit weird. It didn't look natural. I wanted it to look more natural. So once we get the item out, I will point it out and you'll see the difference that it makes. And of course, making the sails of the mill, which is the cloth part of the mill, was another challenge. And I didn't come up with this idea myself, actually. I watched a tutorial on YouTube by Phantasms. I will link their video in the description. And by the way, Phantasms is an amazing creator, amazing builder. But yeah, their video showed a lot of different ways, or a lot of different mills that you can build with stuff that you already have in the game. They're crazy talented. You should check out their video. But yeah, making a mill is a challenge because everything needs to be precise. You have to fidget with the tool mod a lot, that sort of thing. And then you have to replicate what you're doing, so you can have like 4, I don't know how to call them, but like wings of the mill. I actually don't know the word for that. If you know, let me know. But yeah, you have to replicate and then you have to rotate, all with the tool mod. It was time consuming, but I thought it looked cool in the end. And here we are shaping the terrain a little bit more. It went by phases. So firstly, I wanted to have like a kind of lake, but then I was like, I wanted to do the waterfall like in the drawing, in the digital painting. So I did put this waterfall there. I think this one is from Island Living. And then we add another waterfall at the back of the build, but we'll get there. I want to talk about also the other challenge, which we are seeing now, the tower, the actual tower of the build, the tower of the mill. Like how buggy or how bugged are round walls, because I experience bugs with them often and I keep using them or building with them for some reason. But basically, the round rooms don't let me, or didn't let me add a ladder sometimes, and I had to delete flooring and have a longer ladder. You'll see later. And some of the one level of the tower had to be like in an oval shape instead of, which is the one under this one. It had to be an oval shape instead of a circular shape, because it wasn't letting me do a circle shape because I wanted to connect it to the corridor. So I had to adapt. And I wish I could have utilized the space inside the mill for other activities, or for activity rooms, but I went for the aesthetics on that one, and I kept the actual functional house on the main building to the left, this one we are seeing now. But I think it's okay. I also don't mind when that happens, because when you're stuck, you have to find solutions, and that is what defies your creativity sometimes, or makes you think of different ways to solve the problems, and I kind of like that. Now, I also went out with the landscaping on this one. To be fair, I could have gone wilder, but the build, as heavy as it is object-wise at the end, and around the lot, it is kind of bare, so there isn't much going on. And I didn't think it made sense to add that much. And as I said, I built a smaller waterfall at the back of the build. And I did this just because having the random river in the middle of the build felt kind of weird. So I added some rocks, I placed another waterfall, and it made more sense. It felt like there was a place where the water was coming from. At least in my head, it made sense. I also fiddled a lot with the roofs. I changed the roofs about, and I mean the shape of it, or the shape of them, I don't know, 5, 6 times. And then I changed the height of the walls. But this is what we go for in the end. And I add those details that I think make such a difference. It makes the build look more alive, in my opinion. And here I am placing some debug ladders. I like the decorative element, and I think it adds a little bit of story to the build. Like why are they using those ladders there? I like decorating builds that or I like placing items that tell the story of the build without it having to be obvious or having to be told. But yeah, here I think we will expand the lake at the bottom or at the front of the build. And as I said, a lot of rocks in this build are going to be used, a lot of landscaping. I really wanted the natural look, like the house was built around the nature that was already there, and utilized it for, you know, just to create harmony and have it be a part of the build and not replace it or outstand it. These rocks, I think they are so cool because they have that little bit of greenery in them, and they have a very interesting shape, which not a lot of rocks in The Sims have. And the good thing about them is you can rotate them freely, you can resize them, and I did that to give this a new dimension. As you see, I'm rotating it a little bit. and so it doesn't look exactly the same as the one on the left. And we had some greenery also going up through the house. And this is the object that I was mentioning. This is how I end up making the tunnel. So it's not the color I would have chosen, I don't think, but the object itself is exactly, or the shape of it is exactly what I was looking for. So it gives this tunnel feel, which you can see in the drawing that I was inspired by. And I liked having that challenge. Sometimes half of the time you spend in a build is just going through debug and finding things. One thing that helps with this, I found, is searching on the gallery for rooms, and you can search for an object that you want, like arch, or another object that you know or you think is in the debug catalog, but you cannot find it. Sometimes doing that just saves a whole lot of time, because some brilliant souls put those things in the gallery for us. It makes our life easier. And for this part, I rotated some also debug items, these wood planks, to make kind of a support for this balcony here in the tower. And as you can see, I included a little bit of the footage just to give you an idea of how I use the tool mod to do these kinds of details in the builds. It is definitely time consuming, and sometimes you have to redo the whole thing. You have to change the angle multiple times, but this is how it works. It's trial and error. You add stuff, you take stuff out, you fix it. And requires patience as well, but it's one of the things that really compensates in the end when you're looking for a look that is very, I don't know how to describe it, but it was made with care and with attention and detail. And I think that makes a lot of difference in builds of this proportion that try to pass a feeling or a vibe. And I hope this build does it for you as well. I added some rundown details. I think those decals came with the new pack for rent. And for the interior, I went more for a uplifted look. So it's not everything is old, but it definitely has that old vibe still. In the exterior, I put some objects and plants and debug items as well, decorations that make it look also lived in, and that try to show a bit of the story, or a makeup story that you can decide for yourself about this build or the people that live here. And right here we are doing the actual mill. So as I said, I followed a tutorial by Fantasyms, and this is one of the versions that they show in the video. I particularly like this one just because it has the cloth on it, and I think it went well with this build. And as I said, it's a lot of resizing, replicating, rotating, all of that with the tool mod. And it's a lot of trial and error, but I think you achieve something that you couldn't achieve in the game normally without the tool mod. And I think it lets you take on creativity in a different way. So I'm always hyped about this. And this is how I did it. I then copied and pasted, then I selected everything, rotated it to make it stay up on a vertical, and then I put it in the front of the tower. This is almost the final look of the build in a general sense. And as you can see, I'm still fidgeting a little bit, and I kept that in just for you to see not so much the struggle, but the time that it takes, how careful you have to be, because if you click on something wrong, then you might need to redo the whole thing. So of course you don't want that happening. But nothing like that happened, at least not for this build, like it did for my last build. Something weird was happening with the save. Actually, that's not true. With this build, my game wouldn't load at some point, so I had to recover an earlier version. Thankfully, I didn't lose anything substantial. It was just a couple of decorations. But yeah, I don't know if it was my file, my save file that was corrupted. But nothing weird, or at least I didn't lose anything like in my last build that I had to redo. And here I used this stone bench to make some steps or like a pathway. I did that because it just makes it look so much more natural. And I think you would see that in real life. Instead of using just the terrain paint, which I also used. And here we are using some more rocks to give the river some shape, and then we start using some rocks to make the waterfall at the back. I used the same object to make it look somewhat realistic, and I place a bunch of these rocks to achieve the look that I'm going for. And this wasn't in the drawing. This part here I came up with myself. I took the liberty to do that just to make for the build to make more sense as a whole. And of course we do a lot of landscaping, as I mentioned earlier. And it's one of my favorite parts. It adds so much charm to the build and makes it look so alive. We extend a little bit of the lake here. I add that boat. It's not a usable boat, but I think it looks good as a decoration. And you know, maybe it's a place where they fish. I end up adding some fish there and other ambient decorations. And we had a lot of greenery, both in the river and outside. We had some trees in later. I really like this tree. I think it's from Cottage Living. I almost kept it out, but I really like the shape of it, and I think it looks really good beside or next to a lake. So it makes it in the final build. Now we work a little bit on the back of the build and also on the side, just because I focused a lot of it in the front. And we add some windows there, a door, and just make it look a little bit better. And we also use starting some terrain paint, and I layer a couple of terrain paints because I think it's the most, or the way where you can get the most detail and realism. I don't always strive for realism, but there are some tricks you can do with terrain paint, or not exactly tricks, but there are ways that you can use it to make a build look better. Sometimes just adding a plain dirt shadow, like around the build, around the plant that you add, I think that makes so much difference already. And I add a lot of different plants and flowers. Not with so much color. I didn't want it to be very out there. But the color that we add, which is the blue flowers and also some lavender, I think it makes sense, makes it cohesive. So I use the same plants all throughout the build. And that is a tip if you were looking for one. Try to keep it consistent. I would say pick a couple of plants that you like or some flowers that you want to use for the build. And you can keep them in a corner, which is something I do. You can see sometimes in my builds I have some objects to the side or the back, which is when I go through the debug catalog and I find stuff that I want to use later in the build, but I don't want to look for it again, so I just keep it there. I think you can do that also with plants, and it makes the build look more cohesive. Of course, that doesn't mean that you can go back and add other things. And another tip is, if you want to build to make more sense in the world, you can look around and see what kind of trees there are. Sometimes you have them in the normal catalog, and sometimes you can unlock them with the debug cheats. And if you, for example, in this build, I was using, or I was building in the world that comes with cottage living. So I filtered for that pack on the trees section, and so it came up with plants and trees that the world uses, or that you can find around in the world. So that's another tip, and it's something that I do very often. Now, for the interior or the house itself, it is essentially a rectangle, and the upstairs actually came around pretty easily, but I struggled a little bit with the downstairs. Even though it is a rectangle, I wanted to have the bathroom almost in the middle of the space, just to separate the kitchen from the living area. And it wasn't working sometimes. I was making the kitchen too big. I changed it so many times. We end up reducing it significantly, and the living room does not go where it is right now. We move it to the entrance of the house, and we put the dining area there. So we use this round table with some chairs. I use a lot of stuff from the horse ranch pack and also from cottage living. That is mostly the interior of this house. So if you wanted to download this build and you don't have all the packs, I would say those are 2 packs that are essential for this build. And I think I didn't use stuff from those 2 packs, but I think there are things that you can replace that are in those packs, like wallpapers, rugs, that kind of stuff. And I mix a lot of wood tones in this build just because I think it makes sense. Not all wood is the same. And if this is like a generational home or an older house, it makes sense to have different tones because wood ages differently depending on the type of wood. And sometimes you buy new things and some things are older than others. And I like that touch of realism. It doesn't look good all the time, but I like the way it looked in this build, and I think it didn't clash so much. I think it actually complemented. This is pretty much the final layout of the downstairs. We have the kitchen there, followed by dining area, and then the living area. Now we add some clutter in the space, and I don't keep that oven in the end because I wanted to put cabinets above, and it wasn't working very well. But I don't really use that oven ever. So hopefully soon in a build that looks like this, we will come back to it. And as you can see from, or as you can tell from this speed build, I go back and forth a lot. Not only in the interior, but also when I'm making the exterior, I was going back and forth in the build. I was adding something and then I was like, oh, I forgot to finish this. And then I continue doing that. But yeah, that also happens in the interior, so I can be decorating the kitchen, but then I see something that looks good maybe in a bedroom, so I go upstairs and put that in. Then I come back and I see something in the living room that isn't finished. I don't know if anyone can relate to this. Here I add some more wood on the inside. It was looking too white for the type of build, so I leave only one wall with the white brick, which is that long wall. So I thought that looked okay, because I think that the people living here have renovated some things, have bought some new things, or upgraded. Maybe they repaint stuff, you know. Here we are decorating a little bit again, and we add some plants as well inside. It makes sense when you have such a beautiful view and so much greenery outside. It makes sense to have plants inside. Now, something you can do with the tool mod is, I think it is with the tool mod, if you have lamps in, well, when you have lamps in your build, you can shift click on them and you can change their intensity and their color. So you can do that normally in live mode, but with the tool mod you can do it in build mode, which is very good, especially when you're not building with a family in the lot. And I use it a lot just because lighting is a crucial part of making a place feel homey. So that's also a tip that I like. And now we move on to the bedrooms. This one is mostly green and yellow. We have a bedroom in the middle that has a single bed. It's very white, very cream, light blue. And then we have a third room, which is more red and a gray blue. And I did something that I don't often do, which is to kind of build them at the same time. I think I did that just to have the same vibe through all of them, and then I think I decorate each separately. So here we are putting the stuff we need for this room, and then move on to the next. But before, I was like painting all of them, selecting the rugs for them. And I think that rugs, sometimes they make the whole room. So for bedrooms, I think it's either the bed and or the rug. They decide the colors that I'm going to be using, the color scheme and all that. I think that was the rule for all of these rooms. And this is what I imagine to be a kid's bedroom. I put some clutter and then some toys, some posters on the wall to make it look more kid-friendly and more juvenile. There are also some other activities in the build. I will show in the end on the final tour, but they consist, or they are placed in the corridor section of the build. And there's something next to the tower that we will see in a little bit. And I wanted there to have some things in the build for your Sims to do. I didn't add a computer, but that's something you can easily include. And I think it would also be cool to have some planters. I only included a couple, but I think it makes sense to grow your stuff in an environment like this. And here are the posters I was talking about. I thought this kid really liked animals, so we put some animals there through the decorations. With any pet stuff, I think I neglect pets a little bit in The Sims when I'm building. I often don't remember of them, but I think that's also easy to include. But if you want to see any type of builds that are more focused on the animals, let me know if you have any ideas or suggestions. I am totally down to try anything. And I think it would be fun for a change to do something focused on maybe a crazy cat lady or that kind of thing. I think it would be fun. But yeah, this is the final bedroom. We are just putting some decorations. I end up changing the positioning of the last painting just because we have a room there in the corner. So I put a door there instead, and we turned that into a bathroom. So this is the only bedroom that has access to a private bathroom. So this could be the main bedroom, or that one could be the main bedroom. That's up to you. But I think we should hop into the game and check out the build. So here's the final build. I'm actually happy with how it came out. We have some ducks there at the pond. Closer look at the side of the build. So sadly I had to remove the steps from the front of the build just because I play tested it and Sims could not walk through it. And this is the back of the build. Here we have a close-up of the fountain and the river. Another angle of the back of the build. So this is one of the things that I didn't show in the speed build, but I made like a kind of workshop which has a woodworking table and a candle making table. It has some stuff for your Sims to do, and I included some clutter as well to make it more realistic. This is the mill up close. Now I think we should take a look at the inside. So walking through the front door, you have first room you enter, and then to the right you have a door that leads outside to this elevated area. And then over here we have a bathroom. I'm showing this real quickly. It's really old and run down. But if we go out and go to the left of the front door, we have the living room area here. I included some knitting as well. We have the fireplace, TV, big mirror. Here's the dining area and the kitchen there at the back. I like how simple it is, and the open windows. Here is another door to the outside, which connects to the stairs that leads upstairs. So if we go up the stairs, to the left we have the corridor that leads to the tower. But let's check out the rooms first. So over to this side we have a shared bathroom, the shower. We go out and turn right. We have the first bedroom, which is the green and yellow bedroom. Has this amazing balcony here, open windows. It's kind of cozy. Then back out again into the hall, we have the next bedroom, which is the kids' bedroom. Very light and fresh. I just really like these open windows. And now we go back out and we head into the last bedroom, which is the pinkish bedroom with the blue accents. I had to change the positioning of the pillows because I play tested it and the Sims couldn't get through, but now they can. Some clutter there. And then let's check out the last bathroom, which is the same as the other ones. Pretty simple and brown. And now if we go back onto the outside, we have this hallway, which is open, and you have this amazing view. You have some activities to do here. You have a flower arranging table, and I put some stairs over here as well. And then we can go up the ladder. From then on, you can take this ladder to come up to the top of the mill, and this is the view that you get from here, and also a little bit from the front. Here's the outside eating area. And this is it for this build. I hope you guys liked it. Let me know what you think of it. And also, I want to wish you a happy new year, first video of the year. And thank you so much for all your support. If you have any suggestions, also let me know. And this is on the gallery. I will leave my ID in the description, which is Cats Against Crime. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye.